How would you like to increase the chances that you have of creating wealth? Not just like wealth now, but wealth that lasts for generations. Well, if that's going to happen, it absolutely must happen according to principles. Today I want to talk to you about wealth physics. And I know as soon as I say physics, like your eyes glass over, it's like, okay, there goes Myron geeking out again. But we're going to do like 5th grade level physics, okay? I don't know that they have physics in the 5th grade. But I want to talk to you about a couple of things. One, physics is a discipline within the discipline of science. So in order for me to talk about physics, before I talk about physics, I have to talk about science. And by the way, if you're going to learn to love 2 things in your life, like obviously you're going to learn more than that. Like learn to love these 2 things. Learn to love math and science. Because if you learn to love math and science and you apply them to your life will get better in every arena you apply them in. So, what is science? I'm going to give you science. You're not going to find this in a dictionary. This is the Myron Golden definition of science. And it's the Myron Golden definition because this is like the 5th grade version of what science is. And we're going to have so much fun today because I want to tell you all about a failed scientific experiment that I did yesterday that is going to answer some of your other questions that you have this morning that you don't even know you have, okay? So science is the observation of and experiments with the way things work. That's going to be the definition. So it's the observation of the way things work and experiments with or experiments in the way things work. So if I'm observing how something works, that's science. If I'm experimenting with how things work, that's science. The purpose of science is discovery so that I can understand better how things work. Now, why is that important? Because you've never worked on anything in your life that didn't work. Everything worked. You say, no, Myron, no, you don't understand. I tried to build a business and it didn't work. It did work. It may not have worked out for you, but it worked. Because science always works. Science is based on principles. Principles aren't going to change for me, you, the next door neighbor, your grandbaby, your grandmama. Principles always do what principles always do. All work works. Now, if I do something that's not in accordance with how things work, then the principles work against me. How many of y'all tracking? No, they don't work against me. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that back. They don't work against me. If I do something not in accordance with the way things work, the principle works on me. And it works on me to show me the real science, how it actually works. So when I do something and it didn't work the way I did it, the reason it didn't work the way I did it is to show me that it works a different way. So I don't keep on doing the thing not according to the way it works. Are y'all tracking? Oh, this is about to get juicy now. Now, when I do things in accordance with the way things work, they work for me. That's so cool. If I do something in accordance to the way something works, it'll work for me. If I do something not in accordance to the way it works, it'll work on me to reveal to me the way it actually works. But when it shows me how it works after it didn't work for me but on me, then it begins to work against me. Why? Because I'm too stubborn. I'm going to attempt to make it work in a way it doesn't work because I don't like the way it works. Can I get a witness? So what we do is we start having this resistance. And we get in a battle that we cannot win, fighting against principles that do what they do. But I don't like what they do. So I'm going to attempt to make them do what I desire them to do. Like, that is called an exercise in futility. And if you do it too long, some people might perceive it as an exercise in stupidity. And so my life will work better in direct proportion to the degree at which I am willing to work with principles the way they work. When I'm willing to sacrifice my desire on the altar of truth, principle, and then apply those principles the way they work to my life in any and every area of my life that I apply those to, they will work. And see, here's the beautiful thing about principles. They are not discriminatory. Principles don't care. Principles don't care if you're black or white or Asian or Hispanic. Principles don't care if you're tall or short. Principles don't care if you're fat or thin. Principles don't care if you're educated or uneducated. All principles always work the same for everybody. Hallelujah. So, when it comes to principles, I need to get to the place in my life where I am willing to yield. When you work with something according to the way it works. I already said that. So let's stop refusing to work with principles the way they work. Let's stop resisting principles. And we find out principles. So here's what I did. I'm going to tell you about my failed experience before I get into the physics of wealth. So I had a guy, an older gentleman, on my challenge, not this past one, but 2 challenges ago. He had this magnificent, almost glowing white beard. I'm like, dude, that is amazing. He said, I got this beard product, blah, blah, blah. Well, I ordered his beard product, but he was out of stock, and so he told me about some other products I could order, so I ordered them on Amazon. And so I said, I'm gonna make my beard bright white. But I don't want to have a bright white beard and dusty gray hair. So I said, I'm going to make my hair white too. And I'm colorblind. So this is not boding well for me at all. And so I bleached my beard and bleached my hair to turn it white, and it turned yellow. My granddaughter saw me. She was like, she didn't even say anything. She was like, she's 5. Don't judge her. She can't stop laughing. I'm like, okay. So then my daughter came over because she came to the rescue. She's like, okay, Dad, here's what you got to do. So she told me what I need to do. I need to get some toner and some purple shampoo. Man, we're going to do one failed experiment after another. And so I did the purple shampoo, then I did the toner. I did that this morning. And I put it on my beard first. So to me, my beard looks purple, but I'm colorblind, so I don't know. So here's what you're looking at today. You're looking at a gray-haired man with blonde hair on top, a blonde mustache. You are not my grandchildren, and you cannot laugh at me this hard. A blonde mustache and a purple and yellow beard. Well, it's okay. It's okay. Can y'all tell? I figured I might as well tell you because you're gonna be wondering about it. I'm gonna be teaching you all these physics of wealth, and then y'all gonna be, you ain't gonna miss my point because my hair's yellow. Okay, so I messed up, and so I'm not gonna mention which coworker, but one of my coworkers. I'm not gonna mention any names at all. Broke out into hysteria, laughing at me this morning. And then this person said, oh, you can get that fixed. You can go see a professional. Well, what's a professional? Somebody who knows the science. Chemicals anywhere near me ever again? Probably not, but I'm probably going to go see a professional and get them to fix this. Anyway, so principles don't care that I'm iron gold. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. It did the only thing it could do. What it does. Now, just because I didn't know what it did and what it does and how it works, didn't mean it wasn't going to do that to me. And see, what happens in life, we think I tried, warrants getting the result I desired to have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you tried or not. If you tried the wrong thing and you did the thing that doesn't work, the thing that doesn't work ain't going to start working because you tried. I really wanted it to work, but I really wanted it to. Okay, so you know what the beautiful thing about putting yourself on Front Street? Nobody else can do it. It's already been done. Nobody goes, that dude, what is he doing? Okay, anyway, so let's talk about Physics. Some people call them Newton's laws of motion. Okay, so I'm going to do them in a different order than he did them, because I'm going to do them in the order in which they can help you create wealth in your life. Now, before I go into wealth physics, because some people would say, well, what does physics have to do with wealth? So I was on a plane going from San Diego to Baltimore, and this young man sits down beside me, and I asked him what his name was. He said his name is Austin. Are you going to Baltimore? No, I'm going to Boston because I live in Boston. So he's Austin from Boston. I said, so what do you do for a living? He looked like he might have been late 20s, early 30s. He said, I'm a physicist. I don't know that I ever got so excited about sitting beside somebody in my life. I said, the only thing that geeky, I said the only thing that Myron could say. I said, that's amazing. I love physics, right? Okay, so I didn't say it like that, but that's what I said. I said, that's amazing. I love physics. And we literally talked about physics on that plane ride for 5 hours. It was so amazing. And so one of the questions that I asked Austin from Boston, the physicist, was this. I said, what's your favorite physics principle? I mean, that's a pretty good question for a physicist, right? He says that all principles are microcosms of each other. I'm like, ooh, that's so good. I said, but I don't want to mess this thing up, and I'm not a physicist, and I think I know what you mean, but you tell me what you mean. So when I tell people what you told me, and when I tell them what you meant, I'm telling them what you meant, not what I thought you meant. And here's what he said. He said, what that means is if you take a principle from one arena and you put it in a different arena, it still has to work. I'm like, this is so good. So I know that physics don't just work in what we call physics. They work everywhere. Now, so I'm going to give you the laws of physics in a particular order, because I think if you think about them in this order, it will help you apply them to your life better. So the first law I'm going to talk about is the law of polarity. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. For every positive, there's a negative, right? And so what happens is, like the more scientific we become about creating our wealth, the more likely we are to create that wealth. And so if I can learn to examine both sides of a thing, not just the side I like the most, my chances of utilizing that thing increase drastically. Does that make sense? And so most people are only used to looking at things one-sidedly. You know why people argue? You know why people get in arguments? People get in arguments because they forget that when you disagree with anybody about anything, there's at least a 50% chance you could be right and a 50% chance you could be wrong. Like, even if you know that you know that you know that you know, there's a 50% chance you could be wrong. Why? Because what you know what confidence is, right? It's that feeling you get right before you learn better, right? And so it's not the stuff that you know that's the problem. It's the stuff that you know that just ain't so. How many of you have ever known with every fiber of your being, all the way down to your core, I know this is true, only to find out later you were wrong, right? Ain't just me, right? And so because of that, I have to approach everything and everyone with enough humility and enough confidence in the fact that truth is in my best interest to be okay with being wrong, even when I know, which means believe, that I'm right. How many of y'all tracking? See, the truth never has to be afraid of a lie. So if I'm right, and I accept there's a 50% possibility that I might be wrong, but if I know that I'm right, my 100% belief in that I'm right makes me not fear the 50% possibility that I might be wrong. And if I am wrong, I'm happy to admit it because I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here to learn the science and the physics of how things work. Why? Because the more I work with life the way it works, the better my life works for me. Why? Because I get physics principles and scientific principles working for me instead of working against me. Okay. Okay, cool. So, polarity. Learn to look at both sides of everything. But you can only do that if you realize that everything has two sides. In fact, have you ever thought about how impossible it would be for human beings to learn anything if there were not polarity? How could you understand up if there were no down? How could you conceive hot if there were no cold? See, there are too many people who have arrogance from ignorance. They know a lot about a little bit, which makes them feel like they know a lot about everything. But they haven't exposed themselves to enough experiences to know how they would handle all of them. And so, the law of polarity is absolutely essential to understanding all the other laws. Because if you think about the law of polarity like this, okay, so if you think about the law of polarity as negative having a tug of war against positive, well, which one's going to win? It depends. You say, well, no, my positive always wins. Does it? Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you attempt to make your sick friends better by spending time with them? They've got a cold, they've got the flu. So you're gonna go spend time with them. So if you don't have the flu, you go spend time with the person who does have the flu, are they more likely to make you sick, or are you more likely to make them well? Sometimes negative wins. Why? Because when the one that wins is the principle that's the strongest in that environment, that's the principle that wins. So then I got to figure out, and which principle is going to be the strongest? Well, generally speaking, the principle is going to be the strongest that I stack other principles on top of and help it, right? So, the law of polarity. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like, so you couldn't have faith if there were no doubt. It's nothing. You can't have up without down. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have success without failure. Some people are like, I think everybody should succeed. Well, if everybody succeeded, we wouldn't call it success, would we? What would we call it? Status quo. Are y'all tracking? There is no victory if there is no opposition. So stop lamenting your lamentations. Stop woeing your woes and cursing your curses. Your burdens are actually a blessing if you learn to look at the other side. So what is the other side of the negative aspect of the laws of polarity in all of our lives? Well, the positive side of the negative side is this. The forces that are working against me that I face are the only forces that make me stronger. It's the resistance that I'm facing that creates strength. That's why we don't lift air, we lift weights. Are y'all tracking? Okay, so the law of polarity. So you got that. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now here's what's really cool. If I know that, I can intensify and amplify my perception, my positivity, and overcome negativity. How? By using my focus to focus on the positive aspect of the thing. Because the thing, whatever the thing is, the facts, if your attitude's right, the facts don't matter. What do you mean the facts don't matter? Well, they don't matter. Why? Because every fact has a positive aspect and a negative aspect. If I'm focused on the negative aspect of the fact, it multiplies and amplifies the negative energy, which pulls me down. It makes it weightier. It makes it heavier. So now gravity is pulling me down. The gravity of my focus on the negative aspect of a thing is pulling me down. So if I don't have any money and I focus on the fact that I don't have any money, that's a really, really good way to stay broke. Why? Because it causes me to believe that this is the way it is because this is where I am. And it is not that way. You are just that way because that's where you are now. And you can change your perspective. So, okay, the law of polarity. Everybody got that one, right? Okay, the next one is, so the first, in fact, I'm gonna number them and come back to this. So the law of polarity. The law of polarity. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. For every negative, there's a positive. Okay, cool. There's no such thing as a one-sided coin or a one-sided piece of bread. Everything has two sides. Okay, the next one is the law of energy conservation. We're just going to call it the law of energy. Okay, the law of energy. What's the law of energy? This is so cool. The law of energy is for energy is everything is energy. Everybody say that. Everything is energy, and energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. I didn't want you to say that part, but thank you. Okay, so energy is neither created nor destroyed, just changes form. So if you think about that, so energy shows us how we can get the things we desire, because it's always a trade-off. Do you realize that every time you buy something, it's an exchange? You're exchanging one energy for a different energy. When you eat food, you're turning the food energy into physical, like the nutrients that your body needs. So we're trading all day long. We're trading energy for results, results for energy, energy for results, and it just keeps on going. So because everything is energy and energy is neither created nor destroyed, if I know that, then I can predetermine, by looking at the outcome I desire to have, I can predetermine what I'm going to turn my energy into. Because if I don't predetermine what I'm going to turn my energy into, and I let that happen automatically by itself, it's almost always going to turn into something I don't desire. What do I mean by that? See, energy requires two things. Like, energy manifests itself in two ways: intention plus action. So intention plus action, or intention times action, is how our energy shows up. So what do I mean, intention plus action? So, like, if you look around your life and you see how you're experiencing life, you look around at your relationships. If you got really good relationships, do you know why? Because you've traded some of your energy into and turned it into a positive relationship. If you look around, you got a lot of negative relationships. You have a lot of negative relationships because you put some negative energy in that relationship, and now it's showing you what you've done. Your life is always mirroring you. It's showing you what you're doing and showing you what you've done. I'm not saying that every, quote, bad thing, which I don't like to call them bad things, every negative thing that's ever happened to you, every painful thing that's ever happened to you, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying what you did after it happened is your fault. Because you don't have a choice about all of your contributing factors. But you do have a choice about what you're going to focus on, what things mean to you, and what you're going to do next. You always have a choice about those three things. And since you always have a choice about those three things, you might as well choose to use your energy to produce the thing you desire to produce instead of to produce the thing you don't desire to produce. Are y'all with me? And so we turn if we don't understand, like, how this works best, we'll take some of our time and we'll turn it into money. And then we'll take some of our money and we'll turn it into a new outfit or a new pair of shoes or a new house or a new car. And so what we're doing is we're trading one energy for another. And what's happening is some of us take the energy that we have now and we turn it into the energy of something that dissipates really, really fast. Or we can take our energy right now energy and turn it into something that perpetuates over time instead of something that disseminates over time. And I get to choose. But in order for me to choose, I have to have a level of what? A level of awareness. That this is how it works. And so, the law of energy conservation says everything is energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. Now, if it's true that everything's created, energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form, doesn't it make sense that we should predetermine the outcomes we desire to have and then decide what we want our energy to be in order to produce that outcome? Doesn't that seem to make the most sense? Okay, what if your mind were a supercomputer? Well, that was my next statement, and it is. And what if your results, all the results you have in your life, are the 3D printout from that supercomputer? Because they are. What if the programming of your thought energy produced the action of your production energy, and then that produced 3D printed your results? What if you 3D printed your car? Did you 3D print the car that you desire, or did you 3D print the car that was the default? Did you 3D print your car, your house, your life, your relationships based on design and desire and discipline? Or just, well, that was it, because somebody said that's all I could afford, right? So I don't think we give the concept of focus energy enough credit, enough attention, enough intention, because we go through life acting as if we are victims of circumstance when we're the ones that drew the circle and we're the ones that's standing in it. What does that mean? Well, okay, I'm going to give you an example. There are two categories of animals basically on the planet. What are they? What are they? Predator and prey. Predator and prey. Did you know that when you look at an animal that's a predator, you can tell just by looking at it that it's a predator? And when you look at an animal that's prey, you can tell that it's prey? How? Where their eyes are located. Predators have their eyes in front of their head so they can see what they're pursuing. Prey have their eyes on the side of their head so they can see in a circumference. Everybody take your fingers, do like this, hold them out in front of you like this, and then go as far as you can. Now, as human beings, that's about as far as I can go. That's not quite 180 degrees. That might be like 160 degrees, right? And I can still see both fingers when I'm looking straight ahead. That's called my peripheral vision. Well, what if my eyes were on the side of my head and I had 160 degrees this way and 160 degrees that way? I could see more what's going on around me. Now, why did I give you that illustration? Because I used the word circumstance. The word circumstance comes from the root word circle and the word stance. Circle to stand. What is a circumstance? It's when you are standing in a circle. Now, why are you standing in a circle? You're standing in a circle because you perceive yourself as prey. A victim of my what? Circumstance. Oh, snap. Right? A victim. Oh, I'm just a victim of circumstance. Okay. Well, now, here's what the scripture says. A wise man's eyes are in his head. Not on his head, not in front of his head. A wise man's eyes are in his head. What is God showing us? We don't see with our eyes. We see with our mind. Our eyes are just one of the tools our minds use to see. If we saw only with our eyes, people would not be able to read Braille. Are y'all tracking? Now, what are circumstances? The things that have you surrounded while you're standing still. So Byron, what do? Stop standing still! See, because a wise man's eyes are in his head, every day when I wake up, I can decide whether I'm going to be predator or prey. I'm a predator when I'm hyper aware of all the things that are surrounding me that are threatening to end my existence. I am prey, watch this now, when I'm passionately pursuing my purpose. And guess what happens when I passionately pursue my purpose, when my eyes are in front of my head and I'm so focused on what's in front of me, I can't see what's around me. I am no longer in circumstance. I am now moving I'm moving out of the circle, headed towards this place of purpose. Why? Because I've turned my energy into intentional action energy instead of woe is me victim energy. If you believe you're a victim, that means you believe somebody is doing something to you or somebody did something to you that you had no control over. Right, you have no control over what they did, but you have control over what you're going to do next. And if you passionately pursue your purpose, instead of anticipating that passionately pursuing your purpose won't work, just like the last 16 things that I tried, can I get a witness? Then we're going to talk ourselves out of all our chances. So the law of energy conservation is everything is energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so a good question for us to be asking ourselves throughout the days of our lives is, what am I turning my energy into? Because I'm definitely turning it into something. Okay, cool. Y'all got that one. So I got to give you the next one, and you know what it is already, don't you? Entropy. And entropy is the opposite of entropy. So this is the positive pole, this is the negative pole. This is like, I believe the number, like I read books by wealthy people, I listen to wealthy people, I watch wealthy people, I watch people with good relationships, I listen to happy people. But right now I'm talking about money. So you ain't confused, okay. The number one common denominator that I find in wealthy people is this. And you've heard me say it before, but I'm going to say it again and again and again and again until you start doing it, okay? Is we hyper-focus on intention and ignore distraction. Like what you spent most of your time thinking about in the last 24 hours? Intention or distraction? Now, I'm going to define intention, I'm going to define distraction, just so you know. Well, so we all on the same page and in the same paragraph, same sentence. You ready? Intention is anything I focus on that moves the needle in my favor. Do you understand? If you hit a rock with a hammer, it's not going to necessarily break the first time, but you keep hitting it, eventually it's going to break. But it's a rock. Don't matter. And so when you hyper-focus on things that move the needle in your favor, eventually, everybody say eventually. Eventually, the needle moves. I like what my good friend Kenny Grant said. He said, man, I'm going to tell you something about eventually now. I said, what's that, Kenny? Eventually is undefeated. Ain't it though? Eventually is undefeated. Well, the number one common denominator of people who struggle their way through life in any arena is they hyper-focus on distraction and ignore intention. Now, what do I mean by distraction? Anything I focus on that does not move the needle in my favor. It's pretty simple. I'm hot, I'm gonna take this jacket off because, whoo. No, it's not y'all, it's this board, I'm sure. Okay. I don't know if you are as easily, I think I'm too easily fascinated. That's on me. I'll take responsibility for that. But do you find it fascinating that if you want something to grow in your garden that you can eat and it tastes good, you have to actually plant it, which requires intention plus action. But you don't have to plant weeds. They just show up. Isn't that fascinating? And you have to use, not only do you not have to plant weeds, you have to use your intention and action to pull the weeds when they show up. And see, what happens is, we expect that because we planted the garden, that just because we planted the garden, we should be able to eat the food. Well, that would be nice if that's how it worked. That's not how it works. Here's how it works. Entropy is the disruption that always follows intention. If energy is the intention, entropy is the disruption. It doesn't matter. Now, what is entropy? Entropy is anything left to itself tends to move more and more towards disorder, which shows us what? That progress requires intention. Digression only requires neglect. You neglect your relationship long enough, it will deteriorate to it's no longer a relationship. You neglect your car long enough, it'll have to go to the junkyard. You neglect your health long enough, you'll be spending your time in the hospital. Like anything we neglect, which is what? What's neglect? The not focusing on. If I'm not focused on something, I'm neglecting it. Now, some things need to be neglected, right? But here's one of the reasons we struggle our way through life is because most people sacrifice things of a higher nature on the altar of things of a lower nature, when success requires the exact opposite, to sacrifice something of a lower nature on the altar of something of a much higher nature. That's what sacrifice means. I'm going to let go of something down here so I can take a hold of something up here. But most people let go of something up here so they can take a hold of something down here. People say, well, you know, this is what I'd like long term, but right now I would rather play the video game. This is what I'd like when I'm running long term, but right now I'd rather my favorite show's on. I'd like to be wealthy, but I don't remember my team is on. They ain't your team. They don't know you. Them people don't know you, baby. They don't know you. Anyway, so entropy is a law that we must be aware of, and we must actively work against entropy or the law of deterioration. Like things deteriorate. Okay. So the next one is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Law number 3. Y'all probably already know this, but force. Well, I'm going to write the whole equation first. F equals ma. What does that mean? Force is the action. F is force. M is mass. A is acceleration. Force equals mass times acceleration. What does that mean? If you are going to move something that's not moving, you've got some inertia. Something's not moving. An object at rest will remain at rest until and unless it's acted upon by an outside what? Force. Okay. So let's say your financial life is right now experiencing inertia. Right? It's an object at rest. It's not that it doesn't exist, it's just, it is where it is and it's been there too long. Can I get a witness? Where are my people, right? It is where it is and it's been there too long. Okay, so in order for you to move it off of inertia and create some momentum, here's what you gotta do. You've gotta become an outside force. You've gotta do something to your financial situation. You've gotta, and how do you become an outside force? By increasing the mass or increasing the acceleration. Like, I can increase the volume of work I do, and I can increase the velocity in which I do that work. And if I'll do that, if I will do work that gets more done, that's more effective, more efficient, and I do it much faster, it's virtually impossible for me not to move my finances off of where they're sitting. So, if you're not getting the results that you desire to have, either increase the mass or increase the acceleration. Or better yet, increase both. I don't know if this is helpful for anybody or not. This is, like, for me, like, okay, for instance, let's say, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. YouTube. I had very little mass and no acceleration for 15 years. I was on YouTube for 15 years. Opened my YouTube account March 15th, 2007. By April 1st, 2022, I had 10,500 subscribers, which is, and by the way, the only reason I had 10,500 subscribers is because I got interviewed on a couple of podcasts, because before that happened, I had like 5,000 subscribers. No, I actually had 3,000 before that first interview, like 3,500 subscribers before that first interview, and then 5,000 got interviewed on another one. And so, like, I had no mass, no acceleration on YouTube. Guess how much money YouTube paid me in that first 15 years? Zero. Zilch. Not nine, none. But when I found out that they would pay you, I didn't even know. But what happened? My awareness increased. Then what happened? I set an intention. Then what happened? I made a decision. Then what happened? Like clockwork, with discipline, every week. I'll be honest with you. When I decided I'm going to do a YouTube video every week, it kind of freaked me out. Like, what am I going to talk about every week? Anybody else have that feeling? Like, what? Every week? That's a lot. Then I went to twice a week. Then I went to 3 times a week. Then I went to 4 times a week, right? And then I found out, at least back then, I'm going to do another test here recently, in the near future, found out, oh, 2 works better than 4 on one channel. Like on one channel, I used to do 2 business videos and 2 Bible study videos on the same channel. But when I split the channels up, I've only done 1 on each. So now we're going to go back to eventually 2 on each and just see if it changes, right? Okay, here's my point. I had maybe 50 videos in April of 20, maybe 50. That would have been a lot. And some of them were only like a minute. So like they almost didn't count. And they weren't very good, but I left them up there so y'all can see how bad they were, okay? So you can know that if there's hope for you. Like Myron finally figured it out, right? Or is figuring it out. So YouTube now sends me between $60,000 and $70,000 a month and thousands of customers. What? Every month. Thousands of leads, thousands of customers every month. Why? Because I increased the mass. I decided I'm going to start doing 1 long-form video a week, then 2 long-form videos a week. Right now we do 2 long-form videos every week. That's the mass, but we do it every week. So what did I do? I took mass. We could call mass intensity. And then acceleration, we would call that consistency. So the mass, me doing more mass, and literally when I made that change, it literally took our business from $2 million a year to 6, and then from 6 to 15. Like it just went bananas. Why? Because I became a force that overcame inertia and created momentum. Okay. Gotta move. Okay. Oh, this next one's beautiful too. I skipped one. No, I didn't. Force. That was supposed to be 4. I knew something was wrong. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Usually I can count. Spelling's the problem. Now today I think it's probably the orange hair. Okay. So don't judge me. Pray for me. Okay. So the next one is the law of leverage. I love that word. Don't you love that word? That's such a beautiful word. Leverage. Love that word. Why? Because it means a small input can produce a multiplied output if you have the right lever, right? So if I've got the right lever, oh man, I could go into a whole rant on this, but I got 2 more to go. But I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you something. Archimedes said, if you give me a lever long enough, a prop strong enough, and a place to stand, I can single-handedly move the world. This dude is very happy. Why? Because he found some leverage. But if you don't have a prop and you don't have a lever long, if you don't have a lever and a prop and a place to stand, well then you are not using leverage. And if you're not using leverage, you're somebody else's leverage. So this guy's very sad because he is leveraged and has no leverage. We are all leveraged for somebody, but don't be leveraged and not have leverage. That doesn't make any sense. Are y'all tracking? Okay, cool. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Just because what is leverage, by the way? Leverage is technology. Leverage is team. Leverage is automation. Leverage is delegation. In business, those are ultimate leverages. Leverage is your ability to sell as a leverage. Your ability to do marketing is a leverage. The greatest business lever I've ever found is building a brand. I've never seen any leverage anywhere remotely close to the leverage of building a brand, because marketing makes sales superfluous, but branding makes marketing superfluous. Easier. Y'all tracking? Okay, boom. Oh, I'm going back to white. So, the next one is the law of relativity. What's the law of relativity? It is the law of perspective. This is how this relates to that. This is how this relates to this. Do you understand what you perceive is always going to be determined by where you're perceiving it from? So if what you see is not what you'd like to see, or it's hard for you, or you don't understand what you see, move to a different place so you can have a different perspective. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to give you all one more. And, yeah, I'm going to give you all one more. Relativity is perspective, and then the law of quantum physics is going to be the last one I'm going to give you. and the law of quantum physics, I'm just going to put QP. The law of quantum physics is potential and uncertainty. So how does potential and uncertainty relate to wealth creation? It relates to wealth creation like this. Your ability to create wealth is going to be in direct proportion to your ability to accept and manage risks. If you avoid risks, you cannot create wealth. If you learn to have the right perspective so that you can manage risks, then you can create wealth. How many of y'all tracking? Oh, I need to check something before y'all leave. Okay. So, okay, cool. So, quantum physics. Do I avoid risk? Do I run from it? Or do I look for ways to manage it and decrease the likelihood of the risk destroying me? So, I'm going to say one more thing about leverage, and that is this. One of the things that leverage helped me realize is you don't have to be great to do great. Why? Because you can always make up in leverage what you lack in ability. There are so many things in business that I'm not good at. Like so many things. I'm just not good. But guess what? Guess what I am good at? I'm good at finding people and technology that are good at what I'm bad at. And as a result of that, technology and team, delegation and automation, it doesn't matter. If you will apply these principles to your life and to your business, I think you'll be blown away, because you are not going to prove physics wrong. You say, oh, this person, you just broke this scientific principle. You can't break a scientific principle. You can violate it, right? If you work with principles, you will make progress. If you don't work with principles but you pay attention, you can assess. But if you ignore principles and keep working against them, you will always digress. Figure out how life works by paying attention and then doing something about it. And if you'll do that, I think you'll be blown away at the wealth that you can create for yourself and your family. Hope that helps. Stay blessed by the best, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now. So